On today's episode of the Locked On Louisville podcast, we're talking about three in-state basketball recruits that the Louisville Cardinals basketball program should be prioritizing in the next couple of classes: Travis Perry, Jasper Johnson, and Malachi Moreno. So with that being said, let's get right on into the show.
You are Locked On Louisville, your daily podcast on the Louisville Cardinals. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, everyone? Welcome into another episode of the Locked On Louisville podcast. I'm your host, Dalton Pence. This episode brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. As always, want to say thank you all again for making us your first listen of the day. Just a reminder that the show is free on all streaming services 5 days a week. Your team every day. On today's episode of the show, we're discussing three in-state basketball prospects that, in my opinion, the Louisville Cardinals should prioritize in the next couple of classes: 2024 guard Travis Perry, 2025 guard Jasper Johnson, and 2025 big man Malachi Moreno. Beginning with Travis Perry, the only prospect in the 2024 cycle that we're talking about on today's episode of the show. The Cardinals, for reference, have one prospect committed. That is TJ Robinson, just outside of the top 150, according to the 24/7 Sports Composite. Travis Perry is a guy from the state of Kentucky, star of Lyon County High School this season, 30.5 points per game for the Lions, and almost in the 50-40-90 club when it comes to shooting percentage. So that means 50% field goal percentage, over 40% three-point percentage, and 90% from the free throw line. The only reason he isn't a part of that club right now is because he's 88.8% from the charity stripe. But a volume scorer that does so very efficiently. Just over 6 rebounds per game as well. 6'2" point guard, 170 pounds. Really, really talented prospect from the state of Kentucky. I've watched him over the past couple seasons, mainly at the King of the Bluegrass Holiday Classic down at Fairdale High School. I've announced a handful of games over the past couple years. Haven't announced a game for Lyon County, but I've seen him play multiple times, and he has been electric to watch. Definitely must watch if you are in that gym. But he's been a player that not a lot of people have given his flowers to. He's a guy that I think it's because, he's from Lyon County, so he's not from, Louisville, Lexington, Bowling Green that gets a ton of attention like a Reed Shepherd or like a Caleb Glenn or, a handful of other top prospects from, the previous classes. But he's a guy that needs to get that recognition because he is extremely solid. And he's exactly what the University of Louisville needs. Now, I'm going to go ahead and get this out of the way first. There is the whole narrative that if Kentucky wants Travis Perry, that he will be a Wildcat. And that's why the Louisville Cardinals aren't going after him. I think that narrative is as weak as can be. And here's why. I'm not refuting the point that he is probably a heavy Kentucky lean if the Wildcats were to prioritize him, because I believe that would be the case. I think that if Kentucky were to come calling and John Calipari made it known that, hey, look, we want you here as a Wildcat in Lexington, it would be really, really tough to imagine any other scenario to where Travis Perry is not a Kentucky Wildcat. But from what I've heard from people is that it's not just this done deal that a lot of people are making it out to be. There is some interest from other schools. Michigan is a place where, he visited back in September. He's visited Mississippi, visited Purdue. Purdue's in the mix as well, but has offers from Cincinnati, Virginia, Vanderbilt, Kentucky, Indiana, Iowa, Ohio State. So far down the list, there's a handful of very, very solid offers. So, this is a recruitment that at the end of the day, it's going to be one that the Cardinals will have to look at in terms of, at the very least, handing out an offer. It's very interesting to me that the Cardinals haven't offered yet. Perhaps they will, but if they're going to, they need to do so now. Perhaps Kenny Payne and company aren't big fans of Travis Perry, and I guess that could be the case. But with the program's need for guard play, it's hard to imagine, after watching Travis play that, he's not Louisville level, especially when you look at the offer sheet. I understand that, maybe the level of competition isn't necessarily the highest at Lyon County, but I mean, he's a guy that has showed out, consistently over the course of the past couple seasons against top talent. You look at what he did the past couple years at the King of the Bluegrass tournament. He has been absolutely sensational. A guy that, like I said, a microwave scorer that can score at all three levels, can create his own shot, does not need a lot of room to get a shot off. Tremendously solid perimeter shooter from behind the arc, and just an absolutely great creator offensively. Defensively, I'm not necessarily sure what the ceiling is there, but he's a player that stays engaged defensively, and at the end of the day, sometimes that's all you can ask for. 6'2", still crashes the board pretty well for his size, averaging around 6 rebounds per contest at Lyon County. But a guy that I look at and I constantly ask myself, how is this guy not Louisville level? Because you look at the offer sheet, you look at what he's able to do. Louisville needs guard play, as simple as that. And for 2024, sure, you have Robinson committed, but that shouldn't take away the need for multiple guards in this class. And the 2023 class at this point, I mean, there really isn't one guard outside of a JUCO guy in Karan Davis, and he's not a point guard. He is, sort of a, hybrid between a 2 and a 3, more so a wing, if you will. So I just look at this and I wonder, why is Travis Perry not being recruited? Because if the whole basis is, well, Kentucky is the main reason why, and if Kentucky wants him, they're going to get him, that still should not mean that you do not recruit the kid. I don't care. It didn't stop the previous coaching staff from recruiting Reed Shepherd, even though he was likely going to go to Kentucky all along. It shouldn't, you at least have to try. And I'm not saying that you have to, at the end of the day, put all of your resources into one recruit. But at this point in time, why are we not prioritizing him is the big question. And I don't know that answer. And I'm not saying one reason or the other. Like I said, maybe Kenny Payne and company aren't big fans of him. Maybe they're going to prioritize him, in the near future. But at this point, it's kind of questionable to see why Travis Perry is not on the Louisville's radar. An absolutely phenomenal player. I understand people will look at this and say, well, Dalton, he's at the back end of the top 100. Louisville needs to get higher ranked guys. And sure, I do agree. But at this point in time, Louisville has missed out on a lot of the top 2024 prospects that they've been going after so far. Elliot Cadeau. Who else? It seems like even the top prospects that they're going after right now, most of them are wings. Trenton Flowers, Carter Knox, Carter Bryant, so on and so forth. Jamari Phillips went elsewhere. So at this point in time, maybe if Louisville were to get a couple of higher ranked commitments at the position, then you could look at it and be like, okay, I understand. But right now, you only have one player committed, and he's ranked just outside the top 150. Sure, I think TJ Robinson is probably in line for a rankings boost, but at this point in time, I just think, in my opinion, Travis Perry is a recruit that the Cardinals should prioritize moving forward. A microwave scorer that is a solid facilitator as well, just an absolute gamer, a guy that, it's a situation to where he's a guy that I think can have a very, very solid collegiate career for multiple years. So, one recruit, in my opinion, that the Cardinals should prioritize moving forward. Another prospect on the list, 2024 combo guard Jasper Johnson. We'll talk about the recent offer he got from Louisville and more here in just a second after we talk about our friends and the title sponsor of the show, FanDuel. The This year, the only app you need at your Super Bowl party is FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. We're really excited about our new sports betting partner for Locked On because they're the #1 sportsbook in America. And if you're new to FanDuel, that's even better. They have so many great features that make betting on sports fun and easy. All of the bets for Super Bowl 57, including the no sweat first bet, is something you need to check out. It has an app that is safe, secure, and best of all, you can get your winnings instantly. So join FanDuel today at FanDuel.com/lockedon to get your no sweat first bet on Super Bowl 57. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL. At this time, I also want to take this opportunity to talk to you about our friends over at LinkedIn Jobs. As a small business owner or hiring manager, you know that success in 2023 all depends on the team members you surround yourself with. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. With LinkedIn Jobs, you can hire qualified candidates more efficiently by matching open roles with people who have the skills, values, and experiences to help you achieve your goals. They go beyond resume data by using insights from your job post, company, and their 875 million member profiles to put your post in front of the most qualified candidates. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates that you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Hey, Cardinal fans, thanks again for making Locked On Louisville your first to listen every day. Make sure you check out our brand new podcast, Locked On College Basketball. Everything you need to know about college basketball all in one place. Plus, hear from big-name experts, insiders, coaches, and players. Locked On College Basketball, available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. All right, heading on in to the second segment of the show. The first segment, we talked about Travis Perry from Lyon County, the only 2024 prospect on this episode. The remainder of the show is about two 2025 prospects that the Cardinals should prioritize. The first one, 6'2", 165-pound combo guard from Versailles, Kentucky, Jasper Johnson from Woodford County High School, ranked as the 26th best prospect according to the 24/7 Sports Composite. The five-star combo guard is the fourth best prospect at the position, and the #1 player in the state. Currently has a handful of very solid offers from Cincinnati, Memphis, Texas A&M, Arkansas is in the mix, showing interest. Kentucky as well, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Louisville. Also, a recent offer for Jasper Johnson. Johnson has had a couple of missed games this season, specifically due to injury. Missed the King of the Bluegrass tournament. He has played 18 games this season, averaging 21.6 points per game. Very efficient from the field, 50.9% from the field in general, 42.5% from behind the arc. And he is, from the free throw line, he is 75.7. So probably needing to get a little bit better from the free throw line, but still very, very solid prospect from the Versailles area. Johnson, a player that the Cardinals have offered, and he is a player that might necessarily be one of, if not the top prospect on the Louisville's priority list in 2025, and for good reason. An absolutely elite prospect, five-star prospect that specializes in being a mismatch offensively for almost every defense he goes up against. And then also on the defensive end, has solid active hands and does a great job of jumping passing lanes. Very quick, very athletic, hard to stay in front of. When it comes to playing style, reminds me a lot of De'Aaron Fox in the way that he is so hard to stay in front of. You watched Fox play from Katy, Texas, a player that Louisville prioritized back in the 2016 class, ended up going to Kentucky, unfortunately. Just very, very tough to stay in front of, has a ton of burst on that first step and does a great job of, creating his own shot, getting to the rim, but also shows the potential to be a very, very, very good three-point shooter. And I think that that's where, I'm most excited about Jasper Johnson's game, is that potential to be a dead-eye three-point shooter. But like I mentioned, that quickness, that burst, that explosive first step is very much reminiscent of De'Aaron Fox, who I watched a ton of in high school. Jasper Johnson this past year, or this year, not this past year, this year. For those who don't know, I announced for Mail. So I've announced for Caleb Glenn the past couple of seasons. I've watched, Howard Fleming, Tyron Moore, Jake Evans, Jack Edlin, Michi White, Cam Pope, Des Lindsay, a lot of Division I level players come through Mail. This season, the Bulldogs played Woodford County, had a sizable lead against the Yellow Jackets, and ended up giving up the lead, mainly in part due to Jasper Johnson bringing the team back. From a couple of coaches that I've talked to within the state, they are very high on Johnson's game. They believe, he is the next best thing from the state of Kentucky. And a guy that I think Louisville needs to prioritize, because at the end of the day, like I mentioned, kind of the same thing with, Travis Perry. The future right now at guard is so up in the air because there's not a lot of, signs pointing to anybody on the current roster being the answer at guard, because L. Ellis is going to be gone, pretty soon in the next year or so, if he's not gone at the end of this year. And at this point, you have one guy committed in TJ Robinson in the 2024 class. Some people will say, Dalton, why are you talking about the 2025 class? These guys are sophomores right now. Why does this matter right now? Well, because one of the things that, we talked about when Kenny Payne was hired, and one of the reasons that some people believe that we missed out on certain recruits is that, he came in at an opportune time. He didn't have enough time to build relationships with these players that other coaches have had multiple years to do so. Well, 2025 is only 2 years away. You need now to get involved in the picture, because you don't want another situation where you're having to play catch up. So go ahead and develop those relationships now. Go ahead and prioritize players now to see if you can get a prospect to commit early on, to see if you can get a prospect to, not wait until their senior year to commit. So that's what I'm saying is, you can't say that Kenny Payne didn't have enough time to prioritize certain recruits and then also complain about me talking about the 2025 class when it's only 2 years away, because it's the time to now start prioritizing guys. And Louisville just handed out an offer, and that's solid. That's what we like to see. I'm not saying that Kenny Payne's not prioritizing this kid. I'm saying that he should, in my opinion. Obviously, I'm not a talent director or a scout or anything like that, and I'm not saying that I know more than Kenny Payne or the coaching staff, but this is a 5-star prospect from the state of Kentucky. It should be a given that Louisville should be in the mix. Probably going to be one of the most elite prospects in the state to come out of Kentucky in quite some time. So, yes, in my opinion, a possible 3-level scorer that does a good job of facilitating and leading an offense, creates for his teammates, especially off the dribble, extremely dangerous getting to the basket and finishing, with his size. Good job of blowing through, the first level of the defense and finishing through contact. So I think that, Jasper Johnson is one of, if not going to be one of the top prospects in terms of priority list for the Cardinals in the 2025 class, and for a good reason. I mean, he is an absolutely elite prospect. I've watched him play a couple times, and he's the real deal. A guy that, in my opinion, this guy really does look like a top 15 player in the class. Absolutely phenomenal. So, Jasper Johnson, the first 2025 prospect that I think the Cardinals should prioritize. The other one is 6'11" center from Great Crossing High School, Malachi Moreno. We'll talk about him here in just a second, after we talk about our friends over at Built Bar. If you're looking for a delicious treat but don't want all the fat and calories, then you have to try a Built Bar. We just got through the holidays, and I know my goal has been to eat a little healthier this year, but if you're like me and you want to eat healthier but don't want to compromise taste, then man, I've got the thing for you. You've got to try Built. Built Healthy is actually tasty. Seriously, they're so delicious. You won't think they're good for you, but they're perfect for your New Year's resolution. They have all the healthy benefits of a protein bar, but they're covered in 100% real chocolate. So you literally get the taste of a candy bar as well. There's a wide variety of flavors from churro to peanut butter brownie, coconut, almond, and more. And for the past, you were able to just get them at built.com. Now you can get them at your local Walmart or Sam's Club. Head to your nearest Walmart today, walk to the pharmacy section, grab yourself a box of Built Bars. You can pick a 4-bar box of cookies and cream, double chocolate, or coconut puffs. And if you're close to Sam's Club, run in and grab a 13-bar box with our hit flavors, brownie batter, and churro. You can thank me later, all at Built.com. Heading into the final segment of this recruiting edition of the show, talking about in-state basketball recruits that the Louisville men's basketball team should prioritize in the future. We already talked about Travis Perry, talked about Jasper Johnson. Now we're talking about Malachi Moreno, another player that played at the King of the Bluegrass this past season. I announced a couple of their games, and Malachi Moreno is the real deal. 6'11" center from Georgetown, Kentucky, plays for Great Crossing and head coach Steve Page. Malachi Moreno plays in an offense that is extremely balanced. Vince Dawson, Malachi Moreno, Janias Burrell, Gage Richardson, Jeremiah Godfrey, all of those players average over 8 points per game. So this is a team that's very balanced. Moreno is second on the team in scoring, 15.4 points per game. And he is shooting, 68.3% from the field. 20% from the three-point line, and 61.2% from behind the arc. From the free throw line. I can't speak today. 11.7 rebounds per game, and I would probably venture out and just say that he's averaging probably 5 blocks a game. He does a very, very good job of defending the rim, running in transition. Obviously, this is a player that is highly regarded as well. 44th in the country, according to the 24/7 Sports Composite. 10th best in the country in the center position, and second best in the state of Kentucky behind Jasper Johnson. He has offers right now from EKU, Iowa, Missouri, Ohio State, and Purdue. So his recruitment hasn't necessarily taken off yet, but it's going to. His brother, Michael Moreno, very, very solid player for Eastern Kentucky. This is a player that is going to continue to rise up boards, a player that has a ton of potential that I think is just scratching the surface of what he can become as a two-way big man. Does a great job of protecting the rim with his size and athleticism, a very disciplined shot blocker, so he doesn't gamble a ton, but does a good job of, when he does commit to trying to block a shot, it's a very disciplined approach. Reminds me of like an Anthony Davis in the way of, let me rephrase. I'm not comparing him to Anthony Davis. I'm saying the way he blocks shots, when Davis was in college reminds me a lot of Malachi Moreno in the way that when he blocks shots, he's not pitching it into the stands. He's blocking it to where his team can then retain possession and go the other way and secure possession for his team. And I think that that's very valuable. I think that that's something that's overlooked a lot. And he's not the only guy to do that, but I think that instead of trying to be flashy, he definitely commits to playing winning basketball. Does a good job of fighting through double teams. Opposing teams are always throwing different, styles of defense at him, forcing him to adjust. I think he does a good job of getting comfortable around the rim. Footwork is still developing, but I think he does a good job, with soft touch around the rim. In terms of being able to step out and expand his range, I think that at the end of the day, he's going to be a player, only a sophomore, but he's a player that, in the next level, you're looking to extend that range and try to hit that 15 to 17-foot jump shot and to ultimately get to being a serviceable guy from behind the arc. But a player that, at the very least, he's going to be able to run the floor extremely well, defend at a high level, and be a guy that plays above the rim. You're solid in transition, solid in the pick and roll game, and very, very solid around the basket, as well. Needs to improve that free throw percentage, but obviously only a sophomore, so not necessarily a big concern at this point. I think that this is a player that makes sense. Kenny Payne, Danny Manning, this is a Louisville coaching staff that people have regarded as being solid with big men. Obviously, they're going to have to prove that in terms of development, but a player that I think fits the mold of what Kenny Payne, talks about wanting to do, running, up and down the floor, playing fast, defending at a high level. Malachi Moreno is a player that, fits that mold. Also not hesitant to pass it out of the high post, which is another valuable tendency as well. So he's not becoming an offensive stopper, separating that cohesiveness. I think he just does a good job of taking what the defense gives him and, asserting his will when he needs to. So I'm interested to see how he continues to grow as, his high school career goes on. But talked about Travis Perry, Jasper Johnson, and Malachi Moreno, 3 prospects from the state of Kentucky that I think the Louisville men's basketball program should prioritize. But that's going to wrap up this episode of the show. We're also going to have an episode talking about, Yaya Diaby, Tyler Hudson, and Yasir Abdullah. So be sure to pay attention to that. But that's going to wrap up this episode of the show. Everyone have a great day. We'll see you back here very soon.